Hi, my name is Coda Smith, and today I'm going to talk about the legalization of cannabis. As we take the next step into the new world, we as a country are more susceptible to new ideas. And the new ideas that are coming up are medical marijuana. Today I'll not give you the pros or cons of the usage of marijuana, but strictly the business side of it, since that's what it all boils down to, money. The first most prominent effect would be the taxation of it. In 2017, Colorado sold $1 billion in cannabis. They made $247 million in taxes. This was all documented by the Colorado Department of Revenue. This is a huge increase of tax money. If every state did this, they would see the direct effects. Just in California recently in California, California made $60.8 million in taxes, and this was only in one quarter of 2018. This, with California's 15% sales tax. This was documented by the California Department of Tax and Administration. My second point is the war on drugs. U.S. spends around $50 billion on the war on drugs each year. And with the legalization of cannabis, the war on drugs budget would be reduced from raids, investigations, and incarcerations. And with the incarcerations, this leads on to my another point. 500,000 people are arrested for nearly just possession of marijuana. Either it's 1 gram or half a gram. They'll get time in jail. Each inmate costs around $21,000 a year to house for medical care, food, and all that. If we put the 500,000 to 21,000, that's $13 billion in taxes that we pay for the inmates for nearly just possession of marijuana. And then with the legalization of cannabis, we'll see a huge industry coming up in America. With this new industry booming, we will see the jobs be on the incline. If we take a look at Colorado again, in 2016, 18,000 new jobs in the cannabis industry came. And these jobs might not seem, jobs with the cannabis may not seem normal jobs. They might seem like lower jobs or not normal jobs. But most of these cannabis companies hire and employ most employees that are in any other company. Some of these are marketing, human resources, accounting, and a lot of lawyers, And this is a really big thing because most of these people make $100,000 a year, and even more for scientists. Scientists, there are a lot of positions for making cannabis, which high percentage of them make $100,000. That's a lot of money. So that would be more to the taxing and more economic growth. And another point is the multi-stream revenue. Multi-stream revenue is companies that are not directly towards the marijuana industry, so such as like distribution of it, glass making, agriculture, and lighting. These new multi-stream revenue jobs will be popping up and having even more jobs in America. With this, more jobs and more jobs from direct from marijuana and non-direct or indirect from marijuana, including more jobs. So, the legalization of cannabis will boost the economy tremendously. Thank you. Sorry, I went a little fast. I think that was like 4.5.
Are we going in a specific order?
Yes, from the top to the bottom. I don't know which order that is. the order in which they came in, or something like that. All right. We know that the subject is, you don't really have a declarative sentence as your proposition. That's problematic. You say, I'm not just going to talk about the pros and the cons, I'm going to talk about the business thing. And I'm going, okay, but what are you going to say about it? I get the general inference as I'm listening that you think that in the long run, legalization is going to be good for the business community. It's going to create economic advantages. You should say that. That should be the declarative sentence that is the proposition for the speech. There's no preview of what the supporting structure is going to be. So I started making notes thinking that that's what was happening, and it turned out that that was actually your speech that you started. So it's kind of in a different spot in my evaluation here than I would normally put it, because there wasn't a preview. So, but you do have a structure. I could see that you're following that. A good example about how there's a lack of claims in the argument is your second point is war on drugs. And I'm going, what about the war on drugs? What is your claim about the war on drugs? That legalization of marijuana will reduce the cost of the war on drugs? That, I think, is the claim that you're making, but that's not what you say. You just, kind of give me the topic area and then try and explain it. You want declarative sentences for your claim so we know what inference it is that we're supposed to make out of the evidence that's being presented. And you're just not doing that. I mean, I know the subject matter that you're talking about, and as I'm listening, I can figure out eventually what it is you're trying to say. But from a communication perspective, we want it to be clear earlier in the process. We shouldn't I'll give you one more final example on this. You've got a clearer explanation of what your argument is at the end of the speech than you had at the beginning of the speech. Your last sentence is closer to being the proposition that you ought to have in the presentation than anything else that you had in the presentation. And it's a good way to finish, but I'm not sure why it wasn't something that we knew about the whole time that you were speaking. So that, I think, is a little bit of a problem. You have good data on the tax revenues in Colorado and in California early on in our revenues stream. It looks like we've got early good news on that when it comes to the amount of money. The information on the war on drugs, the $50 billion, there is a kind of an assumption that the 500,000 people who get arrested every year for marijuana go to jail, and that we pay $21,000 a year for them to be in jail. I think that you will find that that is not the case. The vast majority of people who get arrested for marijuana possession don't go to jail. They go someplace else or they get fined. Some go to jail, but how much of the $50 billion is due to marijuana enforcement? That's something that I think you need better information on. I can see how you've put together your estimate of $13 billion, all right? Because I see that you've got the math going on here, and you figure that out. I'm just not sure that it's based on an accurate piece of information about who goes to jail because they get arrested for marijuana possession. I think you'd have to investigate that a little bit more. The jobs thing on the third point, you've got some information about the 18,000 jobs that were created in Colorado. And then you kind of go off on some tangents about the variety of different kinds of jobs that can come up. There's not a lot of source citation on this. You talk about scientists and lawyers and making a bunch of money. I'm going, well, they're scientists and lawyers. They're probably already making a bunch of money. Who should be getting the jobs from expanding this? I'm not sure that I'm really that worried that scientists and lawyers are, now will get a different job that pays them more rather than those other jobs. You kind of dismiss those other 18,000 jobs. To me, that seems like it's the more useful argument in making this claim that they're going to be more jobs for a variety of people, not just people who are already, probably economically secure. And I think that that's the way you want to approach that argument. Okay, thank you.